All right, we're going to continue on now with section 3 or segment 3 of our program, Klamath History as Seen on Google Earth. My name is Todd Keppel. I'm director of the Klamath County Museum, and I'm a guest presenter tonight for this program that's sponsored by the Klamath County Historical Society. We're presenting this live on Zoom on November 18th, 2021, and we'll be recording this program for presentation later on YouTube. We've been looking in segment 1 at some sites in the Klamath River Canyon. Segment 2 of our program looked at sites more in the south central part of Klamath County. We looked at sites out at Rocky Point, and then also right here in Klamath Falls. I wanted to take a few minutes to explore some areas up in the north part of Klamath County. I think maybe a lot of people don't make it up to the north part of Klamath County as often as they should, but there are some really fascinating sites to see up here in North Klamath County, not that far from home. Some beautiful, beautiful sites. I've got some roads showing here that I'd like to make go away, and I should have practiced this before I made this presentation. These roads are kind of bothering me here. I wonder if I can turn those off. I'm sure there's a way to adjust the settings to turn off those highways, and I can't see how to do it. So we'll just live without it. What I wanted to point out, first of all, about northern Klamath County is this amazing natural feature. You know what? I'll switch to Google Earth, and then I won't have to deal with the highways. So we're going to navigate up to the north part of Klamath County, get oriented here. I wanted to look at some historic sites in the North County, but I also wanted to look at one really fascinating feature that shows up in northern Klamath County that has not been explained yet. When you look at the northern part of Klamath County here, and we've got the town of Crescent and Gilchrist right up here. Here's Chemult, Fort Klamath, Chiloquin is just off the map down here. Notice this large green circle right here. I'm hoping that someday somebody can explain to us what this feature is on the landscape here. It's not a man-made feature, and that's what our program is really about, but I've just always been fascinated by this. This is a feature that we never really noticed until Google Earth came along several years ago. And, you know, a number of us started exploring the county as seen from Google Earth, and this circle appears here. It's quite a bit bigger than Crater Lake. Crater Lake here, on average, you know, is about 6 miles across. So let's just measure the distance here on Crater Lake from one side to the other. Yeah, somewhere around 5 to 6 miles is the distance across Crater Lake. But up here, this circle here, from Chemult out to the east across this circle, is about 23 miles across. And I've not seen any articles explaining what this is, but here's what's so fascinating to me about this circle is as you zoom out, the circle actually becomes more pronounced. When we look at the entire state of Oregon in Google Earth or Google Maps, this circle just jumps out at you. In fact, you can zoom out and look at the entire Western United States, and that circle is still very plainly visible there. You can zoom out quite a ways and see all these natural features across our country, but this green circle right here really jumps out at you. So there's been a number of people that have noticed this and commented on it, but I've never seen anything scientific written about it. But that's not the only circle in northern Klamath County and North Lake County. Look at this area here. It looks to me like there's an even bigger circle that appears on the face of the earth here. And actually, when you look, there's some circles in various places around here. You kind of have to hunt for them to spot them, but this seems pretty distinct here, an even bigger circle. And measuring this one from one side to the other, this one is a whopping 63 miles across. So I hope that someday somebody can bring to my attention a scientific paper that's been written about that. But at any rate, our program tonight is really looking at human history. We want to look at marks that humans have made on the landscape 100 years ago or more. And what I wanted to do just briefly here is to look at a mark on the landscape made by homesteaders in the early 1900s. This is pretty cold country up here, and it was hard to get to. It was one of the last areas in Oregon to be settled. And so what folks did is they would claim homesteads along all these creeks up in the North County. Along these creeks, there would be meadows where they could graze livestock and maybe cut some hay. A lot of these homesteads up in the North County didn't last very long. A fellow by the name of Edward Gray, who lived up in the North County, he actually wrote a book some years ago. Edward's gone now, but we have his papers at the Klamath County Museum, and he produced a book on the history of North Klamath County, where he documented all the homesteaders that tried to make a go of it here. Most of them didn't last very long. They got starved out, froze out, couldn't raise livestock year round. And so most of them gave up and sold their land. But there's one family that bought land, and that was the Mayfield family. They had their home ranch up in the Crooked River Valley, somewhere near Prineville. But for summer pasture, they would head west, and most of their cattle they would take to the Crane Prairie area, wherever Crane Prairie is. I forget where Crane Prairie is, somewhere north up here. The part that we're interested in is where they would bring a few cattle down south and graze them along the Little Deschutes River here, just north of the town of Gilchrist. Here's the town of Crescent. And then here's the town of Gilchrist right here. Here's Gilchrist Lumber Company. And then just a couple of miles north of Gilchrist is where the Little Deschutes Valley kind of opens up, and there's a lot more meadow ground up here. And this is where the Mayfields started buying up these other homesteads. And they built a barn here in the early 1900s. And their barn shows up on Google Earth here more than 100 years later. Actually, part of the barn fell down quite a few years ago, and so this is actually just the second half of the barn that still survives, still standing as far as I know. I looked at it a few months ago, and I drove by and could see it out there. You can actually see it from Highway 97. If you pull off on the side of Highway 97, there's a wide spot in the road here where you can, if you stand in just the right spot, you can peek out through the trees and see the barn out there. You kind of have to know exactly where to park in order to get that view. That homestead, that ranch now is in private ownership still, but we got a chance to go out there and visit that ranch some years ago and take a look at it. I think I've got a picture of it here somewhere. Yeah, here we go. Here's a picture of the old Mayfield barn, seen from ground level. This picture taken back in 2015 when we got to visit the site. And here's a picture of our tour group walking up to see the site. I think this is John Driscoll, fellow who lives in Gilchrist, who organized our visit to the tour, or to the ranch site up there. So that's a beautiful site up there, and you can see what a lovely place that must have been to spend a summer tending a herd of cows. There's one other site in the North County I wanted to share with you. If I go back to Google Maps here, and it's a little bit of a mystery. This is a site that Dave Rhodes, a Crescent area resident, showed me one day. It's a mystery log pond, and it's located just off of Highway 58. So we're headed north on Highway 97 here, and you turn off on Highway 58. You cross under the short line railroad that goes up to Gilchrist. Here's that railroad. And then here's a road that turns off to the south and heads to the old mill site of Mowich. If you've ever driven that road on your way to Eugene, I'm going to navigate around here in Street View a little bit. You cross the Little Deschutes River and you come up the far side of the little canyon there. Let's see, I'm headed the wrong way. I'm headed to the east. We want to be on the other side. So there was the river right there, and you come up on the other side of the little valley there, and there's a sign here on the side of the road that says Malwich. So you turn across the highway and you head south and you go down this road, and you'll come to the lumber mill site where the Deschutes Lumber Company operated. Right in this area here, there's hardly anything left to indicate that there was ever a mill there. But Wilfred Lamb of Lamb Lumber Company had a kind of a satellite operation up there, the Deschutes Lumber Company. But what Dave Rhodes showed me is we traveled on past the mill site. You cross the old Southern Pacific line here, and then you turn off on this forest road here, and you go a little ways and you come to this little spot here where if you zoom in, you can see what appears to be some logs sitting out in the middle of the grassy area here. I'm all the way zoomed in here, and that's what you can see. I'll show you what it looks like from the ground. Here is a photo that we took when we visited the site. See if I can get a date off of this. This was also in 2015. Open my window up a little bit here. So we got out of our cars and walked around in that grassy meadow, and you can see the size of these logs. They're pretty good sized logs. Here's another picture we took that day. The thing is that we don't know whose mill pond this was. Here's just a view of the entire area. It's not a real big mill pond, but if you get out and walk around in the brush here, you'll find places where there's a ditch that brought water from the Little Deschutes River into this pond. And then there's a control feature where they could let water out of the pond, but we don't know what mill this was supporting. I have a guess. If anybody knows, we'd sure love to hear. My guess is that the Southern Pacific Railroad would have had a tie mill here, someplace where they would have been sawing ties for the railroad. Let's see how far it is from our little mill pond here to the railroad. Closest distance is not even half a mile. So that's my guess, is it was a mill pond from the railroad construction days. The railroad came through here in about 1924, so not quite 100 years there. But it's just interesting, fascinating to find these little places out in the country. Dave Rhodes, as far as I know, is the only person who that I knew that knew about this and brought it to my attention, and have been just happy to know that that little spot is there, where back in the days, somebody would have been working with these logs, sawing them up, whether for lumber or ties, who knows. Well, that wraps up segment 3 of our program on Klamath history as seen on Google Earth. You joined us late. I'm Todd Keppel. I'm director of the Klamath County Museum. I want to say thanks to the Klamath County Historical Society for partnering with us on this project and doing all the work on setting up Zoom. And this program will be recorded and then formatted for sharing on YouTube. So Bill Lewis is the main producer of this program, sets up the Zoom session, and then does the editing for this video on YouTube. And his wife, Marianne, has been monitoring the Zoom meeting, as well as looking for comments. I haven't seen any questions show up in chat yet. I hope I haven't missed anything. Marianne was supposed to call it to my attention if I had missed anything. But I don't see any questions. Most of you people that I see viewing here tonight, I've been acquainted with for a long time. So if anybody has any questions or comments, corrections, or whatever, feel free to give us a call at the Klamath County Museum. We'd love to hear from you. So thanks for viewing. Thanks again to Bill and Marianne for helping out. And we'll say good evening to everyone. Bye-bye.